Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. I'm back with Shubangi today. So, Shubangi is a clinical psychologist. So, thank you very much, Shubangi, for joining in. It's my pleasure to have you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me here, Lakshit.
Yeah,
It's a
it's my
pleasure.
pleasure. It's my pleasure to have you, Shubangi. Thank you very much. So, before beginning, Shubangi, it would be great if you could, speak about yourself and what you do and what's your work, and get into us into do about your work and what you do. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I have done my master's and MPhil in clinical psychology. I'm an RCI certified clinical psychologist, Lakshit. And basically, I've been in the field of mental health for almost a decade now. And worked with clinics and hospitals and counseling centers, as well as app-based mental health services. So yeah, spreading awareness about mental health and destigmatizing mental illness is what I really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have an Instagram page called Authentic Psychologist for that. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
through such podcasts, spreading awareness and actually legitimizing mental health
Mm.
um, is
Yeah.
my aim.
Yeah. So thank you again for joining in. Before you get into any discussion about anything today, one question I would like to ask you before beginning is like how would you define mental health, and how do you think mental health when you think about mental health, what does come to your mind? Like, of course, we know the dictionary form of definition, but what do you think is mental health
Right.
according to your in your own words?
In my own words, mental health is a necessity, right? Mental health is something which humans cannot take away. When you're talking about a human being, you're talking about emotions, you're talking about thoughts. So it is not something that can be separated from human beings
Yeah.
when we are talking about mental health, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, and for me, it's something. It's more of passion. It's more of something that that's my career, that I sleep, wake up, and do everything with. So everything revolves around mental health for me.
Okay, great. So yeah, now let's get into the discussion. So could you please help us with the today's topic and what you can speak about and discuss about?
Right. So today's topic is about finding a therapist, right? And so we are going to discuss about the usual, pitfalls and usual confusions when it comes to finding the correct therapist for you,
Mm.
and how we can move ahead with that, right?
Okay. So first question which comes to my mind when I think about this topic is
Yeah.
how do you find a therapist? Like,
All
right
right.
wrong is the next thing, but how do you find a therapist to the first place with that?
Right. So now the availability of therapists is quite, you can see there are Instagram accounts, there's Google, there's Practo. So there are many therapists available nowadays through internet as well, right? However, the catch here would be, who am I looking for? So if
Mhm.
I found some therapist on Instagram or on Google, what should I look for in that therapist, right? So the minimum qualification you require to become a therapist is master's in psychology. So if the therapist you found online has not done masters in psychology, then you know that this is not the right person that I should go to. Then depending on are your stressors just life stressors, like I just had a fight and currently I'm going through some distress in my life with someone special, then probably I do not require an in-depth therapy. Uh, you know, However, if this pattern is repetitive and I can see that for a very long time I've been going through some issues, or I have some trauma, I've faced some traumatic experience that I feel is intruding in my life right now, I would probably need a clinical psychologist. Now, who is a clinical psychologist? For a clinical psychologist, you require an MPhil in clinical psychology, and they are the only kind of mental health professionals as psychologists who are listed in the Mental Health Care Act that just came about in 2017. So the only kind of psychologists legally in India are clinical psychologists, which basically are RCI certified, and that
Mhm.
happens after MPhil in clinical psychology or PG diploma in clinical psychology. So you can see that in their bio. If you do not feel that they have not mentioned, you have some confusion, you can always call and ask them that are you RCI certified. Also, if you go to a psychiatrist, if you take medications, then the right person of choice for you would be a clinical psychologist, because they are more in touch with, the medicine and the pharmacological aspect of it, and they would understand the side effects and everything, if there are any, and how to tackle medicine related anxieties as well. So yeah, also assessments is something like, there are so many flawed personality assessments and pop psychology out there online. And in India, the only people certified to do assessments to check the level of depression, anxiety, any kind of assessments are clinical psychologists. So you should make sure that you're going to an MPhil clinical psychology professional to get an assessment done. Yeah. Also, I think that when you're trying to find a therapist, you always seem to feel that what is the right fit. How do I know that this person is going to work for me?
Hmm.
I think that the best way to do that is just call them up and ask them what their approach is. All right. Now, what do you mean by approach? In psychology, there are various schools of thoughts, right? So your therapist would also differ from the school of thought they believe in and they practice in, and they're trained in also. So if you just call and ask them, they will be able to explain it to you in a simplified manner,
Hmm.
and basically you can then see if this works for you or not.
Hmm. Okay.
Right, right. For example, Lakshit, if I call you, if you call me, sorry, and you take an appointment from me and you ask me what is my approach, I will talk about thoughts. Like my approach deals with, some thoughts that are negative, automatic,
Hmm.
intrusive in your life,
Okay.
which no matter what you do, you can't seem to get rid of. And they are, sort of affecting your behaviors as well. That I would rather want to sleep than face the world. I would rather not talk to anybody than have those negative thoughts.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then I will say that I am that kind of therapist who focuses on thoughts
Thoughts.
and restructuring them, you know. So that is my approach. And if you think, yeah, I probably have those kinds of thoughts,
Okay.
so this is a good fit for me.
Okay.
It works like that, right?
Okay. Okay. Great. Great. And how do you differentiate between, like, who's a right and wrong psychologist? Like, whom do you think, like, you know how could you have that connection with somebody, sharing about your problem, sharing about your mental illness? Like, how do you share it with somebody? Because if I see you for the first time, I'm not going to share anything, like first itself, right? So how do I understand,
Right,
how do I get to know that this person is right for me, and I must be free and freely to the person and share my problem with them, or with her or him.
right. That's a very good question, Lakshit. So it is very difficult, and we therapists understand that, right? It's like a part of your life which is hidden in the corners that you're literally exposing to someone, and it's not easy.
Yeah.
And we don't expect you to do that in the first session. Now, right or wrong, I think that it's like a relationship between the therapist and the client, right? So once you meet the therapist, once you feel that, yes, I'm comfortable with her or him or them, then only you can get to know. Of course, the first milestone would be the training. So if you see that they're MA, then I assume that they would know the ethical standards, and they will make you feel comfortable, and they are a good fit, right? Because they're trained to do that. Listening skills, counseling skills, these are just the main things that we are taught and trained in. So yeah, the first thing would be the qualification, at least masters in psychology, any kind of psychology, but psychology like counseling psychology or clinical psychology, and preferably some additional training, like
Mm.
1 year training in narrative or expressive arts therapy, or just any kind of training, and then how you are feeling with them, if you're feeling safe or not, if you're feeling heard or not, all of these things. Just trust your instinct like you do in a relationship. And also, if you feel sometimes that, okay, 1 or 2 sessions were great, and I felt that my therapist was, really listening to me and really interested in what I was saying. And in the third session, suddenly I feel that there is, a break in our relationship, that something happened, like probably they checked their phone and in the middle of the conversation, you should always bring it up so that there's not a tear in the relationship, because therapy is all about the relationship. We
Mm.
call it the therapeutic alliance between the client and the
Okay.
therapist, right?
Yeah.
So, Also, it also happens sometimes that whenever, a therapist feels that this person is not really a right fit for the kind of approach that I practice, they refer them out and they talk to them about it. They are very nice in this, they're also trained in this, that how to refer people to a different kind of therapist. So yeah, trust them. That is the main thing.
Okay, okay. And how to like how, if you feel something suspicious happening, I think that every the psychologist is going to be very very like very how do I'm not getting the word right now, is going to be very transparent and will not speak about some client.
Right,
But maybe I
right.
think it's a human mind where there could be some could discuss something with somebody, someone. So,
Mm,
like, how do you get to know that this person would not, and I'm really, I can share with him or her and them or anybody.
right,
How could I share, like, how to understand that this person is going to be very very transparent and will not share anything, because I
right.
think if the
Okay.
person, if the person who's therapist could be as his human, can maybe could share something, the person sitting in front of also is a human and could have some
Hmm.
kind of some kind of thoughts which make him think something is really weird or something. So how to have that transparency, and how do you have trust, like not that कि वो ये हिचकिचाना या, and then there should be no fight or some kind of problem in between the therapist and the client.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. So, for one, Lakshit, I want to tell you that we have to maintain confidentiality. That is the one clause that is there in becoming a therapist, right? This is like an ethical 101 for therapists, that confidentiality is the main thing. Everything is done with consent of the patient. Nothing, even, if someone is presenting a case or if someone is using that case in training, then also the names are not given, the details are changed, and the permission is taken even after changing names and details from the person. Confidentiality clause has got two exceptions. One, when there's harm to self, and second, when there's harm to other.
Hmm.
What that means is that I can reveal the information that you're sharing with me only when I feel that there's harm to you or someone else that might be there, right? So there's emergency contact listed for every client, and we call them only, not everybody. Like sometimes we see in news channels, no, a celebrity has an unfortunate accident or incident, and the therapist's reports are all over the news. It's not like that. That's not ethical, and that's not probably the therapist also speaking. That's someone else, because a therapist will not do that. The first thing that we swear by is confidentiality. However, if you're thinking that your therapist is doing that, it's very important to have a you know conversation with them about this. And also, if you're still feeling unsafe, drop out. I'm really sorry to say that usually therapists are all, ethical, who are very well trained. But you cannot say this for everybody, right? We're all human beings.
Yeah.
So there are some people in every profession. However, I assure you that most of the therapists are ethical, and you won't face such issues. You may sometimes feel that their techniques are not working on you, but these basic skills like confidentiality and safekeeping are usually present in every therapist.
Okay, okay, okay. So, and I just wanted to ask this question. I don't know how right and how wrong this is, but like how can a person be understand, like if a person doesn't want to pay too much for his session to to a mental health expert, will like
Right.
there is the kind of mental thing
Hmm.
we have, that if I pay less, I'm not sure if the therapist will be good. If I pay more, maybe the
Oh,
therapist will be good.
interesting.
So how to
Hmm.
understand that the therapy money has to do nothing with therapist, but it has to do with the person who is you know uh, helping you out.
Providing you. Right. So that's quite an interesting concept, because usually the people who are more qualified tend to charge more for the sessions. So I won't say that this is completely based on something which is incorrect. However, there are professionals who are very well qualified. For example, MPhil in clinical psychology. For example, people who have done courses from Beck Institute for example, for CBT. They also give pro bono sessions. So we need to find out slots, and there's always a sliding scale for most of the therapists here. So usually they're all booked up, but I'm sure that if you reach the right Instagram pages, if you reach the right therapists, they will provide you with some very good options. Everybody has, most people nowadays have has pro bono slots and a sliding scale, so that it can accommodate a large number of people. You know, but yes, for more higher qualification, usually they charge higher.
Okay, okay. So then it has to do nothing with that the person is, like, charging more. So, yeah, of course. Okay, I think you cleared that in the question. So thank you again for
Right.
that.
Yeah.
It would be good. Would you like to, add upon something over here or speak about something more, or otherwise you can just leave a last message and then we can conclude the session.
Yeah. I just want to ask you, Lakshit, how much do you think is like okay for a therapy session or too much for a therapy session, price wise?
I
What
have I
should
have
one therapy cost?
as per as I search a lot of therapists because I do the session with therapist, so I see
Right.
some ads which say a session cost 300 rupees per session.
Hmm.
Okay, so I think
Hmm.
300 would be a normal one because I have seen the ads. I don't know how
Right.
right or wrong that is, but I've seen those ads,
Right.
and I think too
Hmm.
much will be 1,000 rupees.
Okay. All right. So you've got in the market in psychology therapists who charge 2,500 also per session,
Okay.
and who charge 300 like nominal fee, which is ranging between anywhere from 300 to 750 for pro bono and otherwise, you know, um, sort of concession cases, financial aid cases.
Hmm.
So it all depends on the expertise of the person also,
Okay.
and also a lot on the kind of issues that we're dealing with, because some require more specialization. For example, if there are some labels like you've got obsessive compulsive disorder, you've got clinical disorders, that require more intensive treatments. Also, there are therapies like psychoanalysis, which basically delves into unconscious mind of a person, and usually the one session lasts for for a lot longer duration than what a normal session would last. So for that also, usually they charge this much. However, as you said, the usual range is 500 to 1,000 rupees per session.
Okay.
And of course, you can ask for a sliding scale as well. Usually, therapists do ask the clients themselves that, do you think that you need any kind of financial aid in this? And yeah, um, right. And also, I would like to say that after, I think 2020, a lot of people are more aware about mental health,
Yeah.
and that is because of people like you and people who are creating such a great quality awareness regarding mental health,
Thank
and
you.
I'm really happy to see that. um, if you think that there's any other misconception that you encounter regarding mental health, of course I'm ready to answer that. However, I feel that to quite a large extent mental health is being destigmatized, and I'm quite happy to see that happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so I just want to say to you, all your viewers, that please go seek therapy. I sought therapy in 2020, and as all therapists do, so it is a life changing thing. Seriously, because it makes you understand so many things about yourself that you do not understand otherwise. You're just talking about yourself to somebody. Isn't that great? In this,
Yeah.
day and time, when do we talk about ourselves, think about ourselves? It's just me time when you're in the therapy session. So please, I I really urge you to go for therapy. It's a great life changing process, and yeah, be transparent with your therapist. So
Great.
that is what I would like to say.
Okay, great, great.
All right.
It is wonderful having you. Thank you for sharing us calmly and wonderfully, sharing all the tips and what is right and what's wrong, and what to accept and what to not. Thank you very much for joining in. It was a pleasure to have you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lakshit.